any recruiter to know is that I'm so much more than just my resume.
LOL! Come on! We both know that all these recruitment platforms are only designed for the companies to get what they want.
They don't care about candidates like us. Not all, buddy. Have you heard of TAG?
Karan Roy, data scientist. Tag score 96%. Interesting.
That's me. And thanks to TAG, now she knows all about my functional, behavioral, technical, and all other relevant skills. TAG indeed is a game changer for me. When I signed up for it, it created this structured, validated, and enriched profile mapped across my numerous skills, knowledge base, and work experience, and created a score. My TAG score. The score and profiling help me present my best professional version to any employer. They can easily find what they need, and if I'm the right fit, my profile shows up instantly. This way, TAG not only helps candidates like me land their dream jobs, but also figure out where they stand amongst their peers and also identify the areas they need to work on.
Wow, this is just the kind of candidate I need. I like how detailed his profile is. Should I even interview this guy?
See, this is how TAG is bringing clarity, communication, and dignity back for us candidates. It also gives me an access to community of peers, career circles, thousands of jobs, and marquee employers like her to further aid my career growth.
Are you kidding me? Did you just get hired within minutes?
Well, good evening, friends. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the 10th episode of Career Circles Live. It's 16th of December, 4:30 by my watch. We are still 15 days away from New Year, but we are bringing Career Circle Live to you right now. Thank you for joining us. My name is Manish Gupta, and I will be your host for today's session. I represent TAG, which is India's largest digital recruitment platform. If you followed the video, please go to our website, tag.in, to know more about the work we do. Career circles, for which we are today, are exclusive talent communities by TAG, where professionals like each one of you can connect with industry mentors, career experts, peers, and recruiters. Career Circle Live is an addition of these conversations, which are open, where we bring the best minds and mentors from industry to share the latest trends shaping up work with professionals like you. Without further ado, let us begin episode 10 of Career Circle Live. For the session today, it is with utmost pleasure that we welcome our talent leader from Honeywell. Honeywell is one of world's leading and biggest technology and engineering organization, as we know. Our topic for today's discussion is engineering at Honeywell shaping sustainability. I'll just repeat, our topic for today's discussion is engineering at Honeywell shaping sustainability. Please join me in welcoming our speakers for today, Mr. Suju Thomas. Suju, we welcome you. Suju is the Senior Director at Honeywell, an industry veteran with almost 25 years of experience. Suju is a powerhouse of knowledge. He's currently leading the engineering team India at Honeywell. His team is driving innovation and growth by developing some of the electronic hardware needed for Honeywell Aerospace products. Thank you so much for joining us today, Suju.
Thank you so much, Manish. It's my pleasure to be part of the session. A good evening to each one of you who are dialed into the session, and it's my pleasure to have this conversation with you and for on a very interesting topic, sustainability and what it means for us and for the careers in the future. So thank you for having me on the show, Manish.
Pleasure is all ours, Suju. And of course, we are having a lot of questions which we would want to pose to you. So in next 40-50 minutes, we'll be discussing all about sustainable engineering with our guest leader. The conversation would hover around sustainable engineering. It will have a focus on aerospace, some of the upcoming trends, skill and impact on job market. This is going to be absolutely interactive session, everyone. So at any point of time, you have any questions, please put them in the chat window and I'll ensure that we get an answer from Suju. Suju, I have a lot of questions to be asked. But since most of our participants might be early careers, out from engineering college since last 2 or 3 years, haven't experienced what sustainable engineering is all about, help us demystify what is sustainable engineering. What is it all about, and why do you think it is important?
Absolutely. So, in a very simple way, what sustainability means is that to use the resources in a way that satisfies the needs of today's society without impacting our ability to satisfy the needs of the future generation. Simply put it, we need to use our resources very wisely so that our children and grandchildren have the same opportunities as we do today. And it's not a let's say a rocket science, but it is some of the very basic practices aided by technology innovations that can help us to achieve sustainable living. So that's, I would say, in the most simplest way what sustainability means, and it means to each one of us.
So need of the hour is what I hear you saying, Suju, and which is why perhaps most of the engineering studies, firms, and research is aimed towards sustainable engineering. Interesting topic. We'll pick your brains more on this. But let me just quickly, take a point of view from the early careers and students' perspective. What is in it for people who have just passed out, for engineering students, and what is in it for them, for somebody who is, let's say, 3 to 8 years of experience?
Yeah. So, see, as I told, sustainability is in every phase of our life, right? It's while sustainability engineering may bring certain new jobs, similar to like analytics engineer, environmental engineer, and things like that. But we have to go back to the basics. And here, maybe I would want to talk about what Honeywell really does in these areas. So, Honeywell is a diversified company. We have four verticals: aerospace, building technologies, performance materials, and safety and productivity solutions. Fundamentally, in a very simple way, if you want me to describe Honeywell, we are basically a controls company. Everything what we do is help control things which makes our customer operate their devices, operate their products, operate their solutions in a very energy efficient, safe, secure, and environmental friendly way. All right. So for new engineers, uh, it's not that sustainability means that you have to do something completely different out of the world, but it comes back to basic disciplines of engineering. And in every facet of our life, uh, sustainability has a sustainability engineering has a role to play. Okay. If you look at what you can look forward, it in all the traditional industries where whatever we do, it is going to drive impact to the environment. And our basic engineering courses, which help us to address many of these issues, is what we need to be focused on. I will talk a bit more later on today on what specific skills that we can be looking for. But I would say every basic engineering facets that we have learned will have a role to play in driving sustainable engineering.
So, can we say that sustainable engineering sits atop the core engineering, and is an extension of all of this put together? Because you did mention, areas like aerospace, performance, safety, which I believe is an amalgamation of many core engineering subjects that way. So,
Absolutely.
okay, and I'm not aware, but is this being taught in colleges, in engineering colleges, universities, MTechs, or is
There
there
are
a purpose of it?
yeah,
Yeah.
there are courses around environmental engineering. Okay,
Okay.
so maybe one step back, let's take one step back and understand when people make claims, right? We have this climate meeting globally, which happens. What is being measured today is what is treated as greenhouse gas emissions, or in simple terms, they call it carbon emissions. It's not that every greenhouse gas is carbon, but they create equivalents for simplicity of measure. They make it in terms of carbon equivalents. So they measure the emissions in terms of carbon emissions. All right. And These carbon emissions are measured in three methodologies. One is scope 1 emission, scope 2 emission, and scope 3 emissions. This covers ambit of everything what we do today. All right. So any business or a company when they operate, everything that they do to run their business on a daily basis, right? Like if it's a factory, they operate boilers, they operate let's say furnaces and things like that, which will create emissions. Okay, so when they when they operate their devices inside their facilities, they create emissions, and these are called scope 1 emission. All right. And second is they buy certain things, like for example, for our buildings we need heating, we need electricity, right, for which we buy from the utility companies. So for them to create that electricity, they need to they will have some emissions when they generate those electricity. Those are called scope 2 emissions. And everything beyond it, indirect to this, for example, we have a premises where our employees need to commute to work, right? They need to come to work, and for that they'll use some transportation, which will create emissions. And we need to transport our goods from one place to other, right? That creates emissions. All this beyond our regular work creates what we call scope 3 emissions. So scope, simply put, it is the three B's, for easy for you to remember. Scope 1 is all what you burn. Okay.
Okay.
Scope 2 is all what you buy. And scope 3 is beyond buy and burn. So in a simple way, it can define it as three B's. So what the companies do is they try to reduce these different scope of emissions in their operations, okay, which requires certain technologies. But fundamentally, coming back, to make any kind of commitments that I'm going to reduce emissions or thereby promote sustainability, I need to start measuring things first. First, I should know what is my current emission, what is that I'm driving today. And in this field, there are a lot of opportunity, I say. So to make it for the early career folks, there's a lot of career opportunity in, and this is going to be a very important field. Even our ability to start measuring these things, measuring these emissions. Okay, so something for you to ponder over and keep in mind. There could be a lot of job opportunities in this area where you have credible measurement and analytics around what is that we are emitting today. Okay, so that's one thought I want to leave with you, Mani.
No, absolutely. This is great. And Suju, again, for somebody who has been working in core engineering sectors for 5 6 years, do you think he has a scope in sustainable engineering?
Absolutely. I will. So let me make it relative, right? I'll give you examples. So I work in aerospace, right?
Right.
And if you look at the various emissions across, if you total up all the emissions, transportation sector is responsible for 30% of the emissions across the world. Okay,
Right.
30% of the emissions is by transportation. And I'm from aerospace, so I help build airplanes. And so I contribute to emissions, right? And I'm a traditional engineer, aerospace engineer, and I help build a product which actually drives emissions. So what is it in for me, right? So what we are trying to do here is how can I improve every day to make the impact of the work what I do, the product I do, lesser in terms of emissions. Okay. So we do products. So Honeywell does a lot of system products for. So I'll give you an example. So Honeywell, if you look at Honeywell Aerospace, anything you see in the airplane, right, from the nose to the tail cone, Honeywell has a presence there. And I lead a team of aerospace electronic engineers. So a lot of things what you can see in a cockpit of an airplane, what's in front of the pilot, is built by a team of engineers here. Typically, a lot of software goes into these products, and it is embedded software. Okay, a lot of embedded software. So typical, traditional, lot of software engineers, we work on embedded software. But how can we contribute to this means, right? So one thing we are looking at is in how can I help operate the plane in the most efficient way from the time it taxis out of a tarmac till the time it takes off and lands again in another landing bay. So we build flight management systems, flight control systems, and we are building in intelligence and intelligent algorithms in our traditional software, which can give intelligent alert systems to the pilot and also make a lot of autonomous analytics and provide insights to the pilots, which will help to fly the airplane in the most optimal manner with the least fuel burn. Okay, and thereby a traditional engineer is able to contribute towards sustainability. So we will be coming out many improved products in within our portfolio, which actually will significantly reduce emissions for the airplanes. That is one example I want to try and relate to what a traditional engineer does and how that traditional engineer through his work can contribute to sustainability.
So, Suju, I've been a student of mechanical engineering for a very long time, and I'm very much elated to listen to this. I'm sure those of our audience who are glued in listening to this podcast, to this Career Circle Live, you would know that there is a future ahead for you. So next time we alight from an aeroplane, we know whom to thanks. So on that note, Suju, again, you did talk about some of the examples and some of the applications. If I were to ask you, you are any which ways working on something which is very forward looking, but what are further trends or upcoming trends in this field which you at your vantage position are seeing unfolding? If you were to name a few,
Sure.
what would they be?
So in aerospace, one of the trends which is coming is more electrification and sustainable aviation fuels. Okay. So
Okay.
sustainable aviation fuels are one which doesn't burn fossil fuels. Thereby, it has a very low carbon footprint. Okay. These are technologies where we produce from biomass, waste products, algae, and stuff, which will create fuels which can give similar combustion like the traditional fossil fuels, like our kerosene or petrol. It's a version of kerosene what is getting used in aviation fuels. So thereby a highly reduced carbon footprint. So that is one technology area which is moving in the right direction. Another one I want to talk about is with respect to again with respect to aerospace is electrification. So you will see a lot more companies coming with electric propulsion systems, especially for short haul airplanes. That is, which flies under 1 to 2 hours distances. You will see a lot more electrification happening in the airplanes, and thereby, I mean, electrification, of course, doesn't have any burn of fossil fuels, and thereby it is an alternate, sustainable product. And the third one, which you'll see a bit more ahead in the future, maybe, I don't know, maybe 10 years, 20 years down, is you'll see a lot of hydrogen-based fuels. Hydrogen-based fuels and also hydrogen-based fuel cell technologies, which will come into adoption maybe later part of this decade. So not later part of this decade, but later part of the century, I would say.
Okay.
So these are
Uh,
some examples of aviation that I can give some
no,
insights on.
absolutely. This is very interesting. So you mentioned sustainable aviation fuel and you mentioned electrification. Are we saying that the R&D or the work on these field are happening as we speak in India in Honeywell office uh, currently?
Absolutely. There's a lot of focus Honeywell has on terms of developing electric propulsion solutions. We do have we are working with also a next generation of, let's say, not the traditional players, but new generation companies who have all electric airplanes, and they are more focused on urban air mobility. So you'll start probably maybe a decade down the line, you will see a lot of urban air mobile vehicles which are commuting in short hauls instead of replacing maybe the traffic congestion of the cities and taking us from point A or point B even within the cities. And these are all electric airplanes, and we are providing solutions working out of India for these kind of airplane manufacturers. So a lot of interesting areas of technology with these new generation airplane manufacturers.
Very heartening to know that, Suju. Thank you so much again for that. Uh, Again, let me pivot myself to somebody who has just passed out from from an engineering college, just started his career. And keeping him in mind, if I were to ask you, what are the career options um, in the field of sustainable engineering for him? While you gave the examples, but if you can peg it down to some job roles, something which he can aspire to become, what are the growth options? Having taken this bandwagon, where do you, of course, you did mention a decade down the line, 15 years down the line, 20 years down the line. That means this is the future, no doubt there is. But in your own words, what are the career options and what are the growth options for somebody who is starting his career in the field of sustainable engineering today?
Absolutely. So, as I said, there's a lot more awareness in terms of corporate governance related to how we are running the business from a sustainability point of view. So, we will start seeing more and more companies pushing sustainability as a core of their operations. So, the first thing to do that, as I was trying to say, is that we will start having a common standard measurement systems. So, one career option that we can definitely look at is uh, data analytics around emission measurement and metric systems. Okay, so there would definitely be a need of a lot more data analytic engineers in the field of emission measurement and monitoring systems. Okay, so that is definitely one career options which will be near term, which I say will be a need of the industry today. We will also have roles around enforcement. So we'll have sustainability officer roles within the companies. You'll start seeing corporates employing engineers as sustainability officers who will be responsible for the environmental implications of the operations that each companies are doing. So this is definitely one career path that I can look at. And those of you who are doing more software, we will start seeing enterprise-based solution incorporating sustainability at its core in terms of their metrics and governance systems. So around enterprise application solutions, uh, it will be a good area for engineers to focus. I can actually speak about a few things which will likely to come up in terms of
Would love
skills.
to. Yeah.
Yeah, skills. So there'll be some. Okay, if you're looking at Honeywell as
Before,
an
before
organization,
you
that
say that, Suju, before you say that, those of you who have joined in and you believe that you needed to reach out for a pen and paper, please do so, because I believe you got to note down a lot of things which Suju is mentioning. So just take 10 seconds, reach out for, grab a piece of paper, grab a pen, come back, because Suju is unraveling the field of sustainable engineering. And the way I see it, Suju, uh, you did bring enterprise application, you did bring data analytics. It's a full pyramid. It's not just one job role in the corner which is being taken. I see an organization pyramid based on that. Thank you so much for this, Suju. Please go ahead. You mentioned about certain skills. I wanted to give some times to our
yeah.
participants.
So around this, we will start seeing enterprise-based application, and everything will go digital. Okay, with the current capability of connectivity, a lot of this will go digital. So the kind of skills that would be needed in that would be definitely around cloud computing. So this is definitely a career option around this. Lot of these measurement standard mechanisms, including emission monitoring and even compliance reporting, will go around building these enterprise applications on cloud. So cloud computing definitely is a opportunity. Artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms will play a critical role in emission. Don't think that it is not related to sustainability. It's a very, very important aspect in terms of your ability to monitor and build predictive systems, which can help a company go in the path towards meeting their uh, carbon emission commitments. And also, I would say from a skills point of view, a lot of microservices will be required, and we will come to a mechanism where there'll be a lot of value to provide a lot of add-on microservices which make a difference in terms of achieving sustainability. So these are some broad areas. I can talk more about domain specific areas, but cutting across domain, these are some of the things that you can keep in mind as you are preparing yourself to work or be successful in this area of sustainable engineering.
No, thank you again, Suju. Uh, since most of our audience are Gen Z, if I may say so, there's one question which has come from them. What is happening in the space of supersonic air travel and supersonic planes when it comes to sustainability? Your thoughts, Suju? I just couldn't keep myself away from that question. I thought, let me just.
Yeah, there are a lot of talk about supersonic, but actually it could result in hypersonic airplanes, which will fly, which would have to go beyond the gravitational pull to actually drive. I don't, let's say, I don't think that would be a major investment that you will see in aviation in the next decade or so. There would be like 1 2 players invested in these technologies, but I don't see any viable thing coming up at least in a decade or so. So sorry to disappoint you. Probably you will see more hype around space travel, okay, than maybe on supersonic travel.
So, Abhishek Savnar, that was your question. I hope you got the answer. I think the key lies around hypersonic planes. Supersonic is still some distance. That's what Suju says. On that note, Suju, let me quickly change gears. And of course, thanks to this conversation, we do understand what sustainability is all about to some extent, to a large extent, if I may say so. We do understand the application areas. We do understand some of the areas which sustainability touches. We do understand that it's going to be an organization pyramid and not just one or two roles here and there that way. So, uh, with that, let me just change gears and ask you one question. Um, as an employer, when it comes to sustainability, and as an employer for a very large engineering organization, a leading engineering organization, what is it that you look for in candidates when you look to hire them?
Okay, so in today's world, right, uh, it's a matter of your technical cognitive ability plus the behavioral abilities. Okay, if you ask me, that is what at least me as a hiring manager often looks for. Okay, it is not just on maybe your knowledge of a certain language or a certain software technology that matters, but also your ability to adapt. Okay, your eagerness to learn and unlearn things. That is what is going to be what is going to determine, or the key tenet that me as a hiring manager will be looking for. All right. So what I would be very much focused on is that I am looking at a set of people who are the most adaptable. Okay, so Darwin's theory was survival of the fittest, right? I would try to define it survival of the most adaptable. That's the person that who can actually dynamically learn and unlearn based on the changes what is happening across the world. Why that is so important, why I want to tell is that when I started my career, that was not so important. Okay, all it mattered was the technical ability of a person. If you go back to me, or maybe a little bit behind my parents generation of work life, technology changes happened at the pace of 40 50 years. Okay, major changes happened in 40 50 years. Today, the amount of magnum of changes what has happened in the 40 50 years will happen in less than 5 years, and that pace of change is going to continue to accelerate. All right, so the language, sorry to disappoint you, but maybe you learn a script, maybe a Java or something like that, right? I'm just giving a random example, or any particular technical language. Who knows whether that will be relevant in 3 4 years time? You never know. So what I am looking for is a person who has the willingness to change with the needs of the changing times, and willing to learn and unlearn things. Okay, so that's one thing I really want to leave the thoughts with you. Come with that open mind and willingness to learn.
You're right, Suju. I mean, our fathers learned one skill and sustained their life on that. We perhaps learned a few skills, but I think going forward, learnability and adaptability to everyday scenario, everyday situation is going to be key. Something which almost every leader we talk to emphasizes. So thanks again for that, Suju. There's a question which has come in from the audience. I'll just pose it for you. Is Honeywell doing something in space of water and air pollution? Something which you may want to throw some light on that.
Absolutely. So we have smart meters around in terms of uh, metering, smart metering, which helps in terms of judicious usage of water, coupled with technologies from our performance material business, which helps around clean water, safe water uh, technologies. All right. So on pollution, so if you ask, I mentioned about transportations, but the next biggest contributor to emissions is the construction buildings. Okay, and we have a lot of work what we do around smart buildings, healthy buildings, and smart cities. These are set of uh, essentially it is the underlying thing is the control systems that we have, the traditional domain expertise that Honeywell has in control systems, coupled with learning about creating smart autonomous control systems. When I say that, the building or the cities become smart by continuous learning. All right, it continues to measure things and learn from those measurements and adapt along the way. So, for example, a building you will come with very lot of smart sensors across the different locations of the building that the building can figure out on its own the air quality at that place, for example, the lighting at that place, and optimally switch on and switch off things, which will optimize the consumption of electricity and also minimize the pollution coming out of the buildings. Okay, so these are some very interesting work that we are doing in Honeywell around air and water. One more thing I want to really talk about is we have actually looking at a complete set of portfolio around sustainable building technologies. Okay, it's going to be a portfolio of business, and we'll be working with a lot of our customers to create sustainable buildings, which has a combination of all our technologies, be it in terms of renewable energy sources to generate power, storage of those power, usage of those power, and emission in this building. So the complete ambit of this would be around sustainable buildings technologies, which will at the end of the day will minimize and almost make a building carbon neutral. That's our goal. So there's a lot to hear around this topic.
No, great, Suju. Smart cities. We hear of so many things, but it is these small innovations uh, which make that a reality. And of course, some of the innovative work which goes on at Honeywell and other leading organizations is what makes the smart world we live in a reality. On that note, Suju, there's a question which has come in from one of the participants, and I like the naivety of that question. It says that what are the key skills that an engineer needs to be part of Honeywell? I would want you to ponder and answer that.
Yeah, yeah. So again, I wanted to give you because we operate in five verticals.
Yeah.
So from an aerospace perspective, I would say controls sciences coupled with embedded software, hardware, and mechanical skills around, let's say, aerospace products. What you will see in the future is that we'll be hiring in aerospace a lot of folks around with knowledge on electric propulsion, around electric motors and stuff, battery technologies, fuel cells, analytics, cloud computing, and AML. Okay, this is just one vertical that I'm talking about. So we have our, there was also, I think, people who are on the chemical side of the things. We have a business, performance materials, where we continuously innovate to come out with low global warming, low carbon footprint products. Okay. For an example, we have come out with a very low carbon footprint uh, refrigerant, okay, which so far has removed equivalent carbon emissions of say 52 million cars in a year. What an emission comes out of 50 million cars? That's the kind of impact that we are creating. So on that area, emission sensing, alternative fuel technologies, energy storage, life cycle analysis of the carbon footprint, electrochemistry is one area I can think of. Refrigeration systems, as I just gave you an example about uh, carbon dioxide conversion chemistry and things like that, because we do a lot of things around carbon capture, okay, so that it doesn't go into the environment. Again, on our building technologies, a good understanding about HVAC system, air conditioning system, uh, and also we have a business around materials, advanced materials. So that's where folks who are in the material science, textile industries can also find an opportunity in our safety and productivity solution business. So across the vertical, there's a lot of things happening, but what I can think of, these are a few things that I want to leave with the folks, that these are the opportunities that you will see that Honeywell will have in store for you.
And these are opportunities galore, everyone. I mean, if you've just heard Suju saying, he did mention opportunities across verticals, across technology, across core engineering, across material science, across chemical engineering, across mechanical engineering, across data science, cloud computing. It seems sustainability is going to touch our lives, is what I can reckon from this conversation, Suju. Again, thank you. I can see questions coming in chat window, Suju. That only means that people are just hanging on to every word you said. So you mentioned chemical engineering, and here comes a question: in what job roles? And I think that I like the question. It says, "What job roles a chemical engineer would make a career in sustainable engineering?" So if you can just help, while you did mention some of the application areas, but if you can help identify certain job roles, what would they be typically in a for a chemical engineer in sustainability engineering? Over to
So
you.
basically, it is more about engineering development roles in chemical engineering, more related to our advanced materials and uh, uh, improved additive business. So we do have a facility in Gurgaon where we do a lot of research around advanced additives, which will help more efficient refining and things like that. This is an area where a chemical engineer plays a key role. And also, I mentioned about additives which improves the materials. So that continuous research around molecular technologies which actually improve our yield and our outcomes for our large OE customers in the chemical areas. The example I gave, of course, was the refrigerant. So the knowledge around building low global warming, low carbon footprint refrigerants play a great role, and that is where we are looking for a chemical engineer. So we do have in India, we have a engineering development center in Gurgaon where a whole set of chemical engineers work to build a next generation sustainable molecules which will help our customers have low carbon footprint products for the future. So absolutely, very much in our performance materials business, there's a lot of chemical engineers role to do a lot of engineering development work for the future molecular developments.
Again, not everyone is aware of this wonderful work which is happening right there in India. Very heartening and very enlightening conversation, Suju. Thank you again for this. There are two questions around hydrogen. You did mention it's a phenomena in the later part of the century, but the question has come in right now. So let me just direct it over to you. The question reads: is 100% hydrogen powered aircraft engineers feasible? And is there hydrogen fuel related innovation happening at Honeywell in India? So, hydrogen powered aircraft and hydrogen fuel related innovation happening in Honeywell. Your thoughts, Suju?
Yes, Honeywell is invested. We have a line of business around hydrogen fuel cells. So you will find that in our portfolio of Honeywell that we have a business around hydrogen fuel cells. Okay, which can power systems or also help recharge batteries. All right. So is 100% hydrogen powered aircraft engines practically feasible? Yes, it is practically feasible. It's not the technology of building an engine which can run on 100% hydrogen. It is the ability to build an infrastructure to make hydrogen available at the scale that is required to run aircraft across the world. That is the challenge, I would say. It's not the technology of building the engine, it's the technology of creating the infrastructure to have hydrogen at that level of scale which can operate aircrafts across the world. Okay, that will be the major challenge to reach that stage. So that's my take. So it's not about the engine technology, it's more about the availability of hydrogen at scale. But very interesting question. So it looks like there's a lot of interest in driving, and definitely if you are able to reach scale, it's extremely, I would say, an extremely clean source of transportation, because the emission would be uh, water, right? Water vapor. And by the way, also you should be very aware that there are multiple ways in which hydrogen is generated, and you will also be keen to go. Those folks who are very interested to know about hydrogen manufacturing. There are like blue hydrogen, green hydrogen, and things like that. And it depends on the emissions created during producing of those hydrogen. Okay, if you're going to produce hydrogen with all renewable energy sources, that is what we term as green hydrogen.
Thank you so much, Suju. It has been a lovely session, actually. We've had multiple questions coming in. Actually, there seems to be a small glitch in Manish's system where he got dropped. So we'll be taking it forward from here. It has been a great session, and we are just seeing so many comments coming onto the chat here. We have one more question for you, if I can go ahead here. Um, so there is a lot of talk about recession, Suju. So, and people here are checking in as to will it be difficult for freshers to find jobs in the field, and how does the hiring, intent for the company look like in the space of sustainable engineering the year 2023?
Sustainable engineering is a new area, so I'm sure there will be a lot more jobs created in that field moving forward, and it won't be revolving around recession. Of course, uh, I to me, if you ask me a personal question whether you will see a major recession in India, I don't think so. So India is growing at a rate of 6.5%, and we will see some impact of recession in the developed markets, but I expect India to grow at least 5.5 to 6% in 2023. So I want to allay your fears that India is going to see a major recession. There would be pockets in industries which are more reliant in developed market or more dependent in for their products and services in developed market. But India will continue to grow. There's a lot of things happening in India, and India, I believe, will grow at least 5% next year.
Okay, so with that, we have the final two questions coming in, Suju, for the session. We are almost nearing the end of the session. And one of the questions we have from Shashti here, that what are the big challenges that you see in the sustainable fuel vertical?
Sustainable fuel vertical. Okay. So, so sustainable fuel again, similar to what I spoke about hydrogen, right? It's an ability to produce at a large scale. Okay, you know that the fossil fuel has a lot of infrastructure, right, to make available. Like you take your bike anywhere, you are able to fill it up, right? You got all the petrol pumps all over the place. Similarly, for aviation, there is a lot of infrastructure around filling fuel into the airplane. So the challenge with sustainable aviation fuel is to produce at that scale, which makes it which makes it in enough quantity to
Right.
fill all the transportation needs of the market. So what will happen, what we'll see, to be very pragmatic and practical, is that we'll see more of hybrid or blended fuels. Okay. So you will
Right.
still have, like say, 10% mix, 20% mix kind of thing. That will actually work in the near term. So you will actually mix the traditional fuel with about 10% sustainable fuel, or 15, 20%. And what happens is, see, every step makes a difference, right? Even if I reduce usage of one tissue today, it's going to make an impact to sustainability. So in the same language, even if you are able to reduce little bit of 10% reduced carbon in the flight that we fly, it's going to go move towards sustainability. So that's what you'll see in the future. These blended fuels will start becoming more reality. And it's
Uh,
already happening. There are airlines who are doing that already.
Awesome. So I have one last question for you, Suju. I'm sure, I mean, the comment section is just flooding and flooding with everybody saying thank you so much. It has been a wonderful session. But before we move to that, I have one last question for you. What emissions are to be monitored in utilities in steps towards sustainability? What kind of
Okay.
monitoring of utilities is required? Yes.
So in utilities, to be very simple, no, we can have high funda, smart metering, and other systems. But if one of your pipelines are leaking, right, that itself is going to blow all your emission plan out of things. So it starts with even having a very good sensors across your utility line to see if there is any leakage, right? Which is able to sense and also tell you where that leakage is happening. That's the first step towards utilities. I would say utilities first, they need to have a lot more sensor based monitoring systems, which will help first to avoid unnecessary emissions, right, through leakages, gas leaking, and things like that. And second thing, of course, is the bringing in a lot more algorithms in play, which makes it more smart for the utilities to understand uh, where there is getting wasted, where you don't need that much energy, that much power, and automatically have control systems which switches on and off with a lot of autonomy, right? Those are the areas where I think utility will start seeing a way to impact emissions.
That was Vijay Mishra asking this question, Suju. Thank you again. I'm experiencing some fluctuation. Nonetheless, hopefully it'll not happen again. One interesting question which has come in. Look, a lot of work which you do, Suju, is around research and development. Um, and in the current hybrid model, do you think that is sustainable? Or in the current hybrid scenario, how the R&D roles are going to be impacted, or is there no impact? That is the essence of the question. The question has come in slightly differently, but I did interpret the question correctly, and I'm asking this question to you. Over to you.
Sure. No, it's a very good question, and I think COVID brought us to that reality, right? Yeah,
Correct.
just to paraphrase, what we do in India for Honeywell is mostly engineering development or engineering and technology development. Okay, rather than R&D, we do more of engineering and technology development here, out of the India facilities. And COVID brought us all to a standstill, right? And we actually learned. So human has, that's why the ability to change and adapt to the changing times is what is the beauty of mankind. And we learned how to make it work in a remote environment. Okay, we built a lot of systems in place using, of course, the power of digitization, power of remote monitoring and remote controls, okay, to be as effective in a hybrid environment as in face-to-face environment. So as we came out of the pandemic, what we did is we thought, let's use the best of both worlds. Okay, so we have come in with solutions where, uh, just to give an example, we build aircraft products or building solution products, and we do test those softwares in sophisticated test benches, and we have put systems in place that an engineer from sitting from anywhere can actually access those benches and actually test their software or integrate that into a major system and test them. Almost to 80 to 90% of the things we are able to achieve that. So with very minimal face-to-face presence. But having said that, the best of ideas, what mankind creates, requires a bit of collaboration, right? When humans talk to each other, there's a lot of intangibles which happens, and a lot of ideas come out of those conversations. So Honeywell believes in the power of collaboration. So what Honeywell has done, we have created a hybrid world where employees have the flexibility to work remote and also work in office in a hybrid mode, and that's actually giving us the best of both worlds, getting the power of collaboration with the flexibility or the efficiency of remote work. So that's what has transpired over the last couple of years.
So those who have logged in, that's Suju, eh, letting everybody know that Honeywell, they have found a balance between hybrid and collaboration, and the results are there to be seen. This I have a host of questions, Suju, and there are a few questions which are coming in on the chat as well. To the audience who have logged in case your questions have not been answered, please do join Career Circles, pose the question there, and we would request and we will get the answers from Suju and we'll get back to you.
Absolutely.
Um, this was very enlightening session for us, Suju. We hope to have another round of conversation where we'll go into the next level of discussion as far as sustainability is concerned. I enjoyed this conversation as much as I'm sure the audience did. With this, Suju, I thank you very much for joining us today and sharing your views. A big thanks to all your audience and members who have joined us. In case you have joined in for the first time, do log in to Career Circles Live, and we do enable such conversations with industry leaders and mentors where you get enriched and get an understanding of what lies ahead with you. We have some very interesting sessions which we have lined up in the coming week. Please join the community. Please join the Career Circle. In case you have any feedbacks or inputs, also, please do reach out to us. We value that. We are there on Career Circles at tag.in. It is CAREERCIRCLES @TAGGD.in. Tag.in is our URL. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great weekend. This is Manish and Suju Thomas signing off. We wish you a great year ahead.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for this conversation, and really enjoyed the discussion the last 1 hour. Thank you for your participation.
Thank you very much, Suju. Thank you for your time. Thank you, everyone.